You don't often get an invitation to go on a mind-bending journey in a gacha game, and NieR Reincarnation doesn't shy away when it comes to this matter. Special thanks goes to Square Enix for sponsoring this video. Before we even delve into the story, gameplay, and everything else, it's important to acknowledge the elephant in the room, or in this case, the enigmatic game director Yoko Taro. The man's been responsible for games like NieR Automata that made you question your own perception of reality, so anyone who has been at least familiar with his style of games shouldn't get too surprised when your companion in Reincarnation is a cute little ghost called Mama, or the fact you're running around as a little girl in a massive and incomprehensible maze called the Cage. Now, the reason why this all matters is because the game just launched worldwide after first getting released in Japan back in February, which already had massive success there. So the big focal point of this whole launch is the crossover event between Reincarnation and Automata, and until September 7th, you can unlock and play as either 2B, 9S, or A2, but more importantly, a lot of materials are being given away, so it's really easy to raise these characters into strong units while the collab lasts. But the more interesting part is of course the gameplay, which on your first look might seem like a game that's pretty hands-free, which to some extent is true as it is for most gacha games, since you have an auto mode, but there are a couple of unique caveats you need to be aware of. First of all, weapons play a big part in this game because there is a rock paper scissors system of sorts. However, it's not the characters who possess an elemental affinity but the weapon itself, which means by equipping this sword, she would gain wind affinity, but you could also switch it out and now instead act as a light elements attacker. And the other critical thing about the weapons are their skills, which you get 2 of them in addition to having a unique skill that only your character possesses. And because you can create a team of 3, you can end up with a lot of interesting team builds depending on what weapons and characters you decide to use. This becomes even more important because of the way you can chain the skills together and deal combo damage, so the more hits you produce and build on top of them with other weapons and characters, the better results you'll get. But all of this fighting has to have some meaning, right? Well, in order to avoid story spoilers, since it plays such a huge part in the game, you will encounter a lot of mysterious so-called scarecrows, where you'll be able to play back some of the memories and characters you meet along the way that help you with figuring out how you ended up in the cage, and why is that creature called Mama insist on helping you out. Speaking of which, it's always interesting to see how a character's design looks in action, especially now that we're having the Automata crossover event, not to mention there's few more neat features you'll want to see next. The lifeline of any gacha game are the summoning systems, and NieR Reincarnation brings its own little spin into this. First, it's important to remember because of the pre-registration campaign that ran for the game, more than 600,000 players joined, and because of this, everyone gets 15 summons for free, which is a great way to start off on those crossover banners with NieR Automata. Now, surprisingly enough, there's actually 2 banners that will run for the period of the special collab, and one of them contains 2 original characters, while 2P is from another crossover with Final Fantasy XIV, but nonetheless, it's interesting to see them here along with others. Still, it's hard to resist the primary banner, so summoning on it seemed like the most natural choice, and as always, Mama helps out even when collecting new stuff. And when you summon in this game, you get to acquire new weapons ranging from 2 stars as lowest rarity, all the way up to 4 stars, and what's interesting about it is that some of these weapons also unlock for you new characters. So for example, this account got lucky and pulled A2, or in this case, her weapon, Type 3 Blade, which are both of a 4-star rarity, but even a 3-star weapon can unlock a character, which was the case with Abnegation Sword unlocking a Dissenting Soldier. So for the most part, you're gathering weapons from the summons, but sometimes you can get lucky and even pull new characters. And as mentioned previously, each weapon has 2 skills you can activate with the character who equips it. So on A2 weapon we pulled, there's Bladed Fatality times 4, which as the name suggests, produces 4-hit combo and increases critical damage, and then there's Critical Ward that deals 3 hits and improves defense. So you've got a nice fire weapon that balances both offense and defense. A2 herself also comes with a very mean skill of her own that bludgeons the enemy 4 times and increases critical damage by a large amount. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that a lot of characters have their own personal quests, which delve deeper into what they are, and you can also unlock a lot of goodies, so it's a great way to get to know who you're using when grinding those stages and building teams. And since we're on the same subject, because of the special crossover, there is a NieR Automata subquest where you fight some weird baddies, and after afterwards you get some cutscenes and animations that explore the relationship between 9S and 2B, which is something you should be familiar with if you played the original game. But clearing these missions from the crossover aren't just there to pique your interest in the story, because you also get awarded with special medals you can use to redeem a lot of different rewards from the exchange shop, ranging from characters to weapons and even some really hard to obtain currency and materials. So basically, this is the place you want to be at until the collab ends, and getting those medals for special rewards is going to be a big part of gameplay. Finally, this didn't get mentioned previously, but you can also equip your character with a companion that have their own skill to help out, which ties in together quite nicely because of their elemental affinity, and can provide support in those harder to beat missions from the crossover events and other quests. So yeah, plenty of customization and variety right from the start. Now the big question is, what would be the next step? Building up those combo attacks and witnessing some of the stories is just part of the deal in this game, since when we talk about weapons, skills, and teams in general, there's honestly quite a lot of things to go over, but at the end of the day, you're just trying to figure out in this game why you're stuck in the cage, and who is that mysterious companion that keeps helping you out. But aside from some of the more obvious activities you'll find in the game, like daily quests, minigames, and other time-limited activities, building a team is probably the most satisfying part of the game, at least in terms of progression, and even if not much can get revealed about the story in this video without spoilers, at least you can appreciate some of the sights you get to see, which kind of feels unique since it's not a common thing you get used to. The music and art direction really sets the game apart from everything else, and it can sometimes feel moody, sometimes ridiculous, which, if we're being frank, is something you should expect from Yoko Taro's vision. In the end, the gameplay loop and progression is crunchy enough, especially considering there's memoirs which haven't been shown, but add an extra layer of complexity to your character, as well as trying to find the balance with those weapon and companion skills, which can be interesting on its own. One last detail that's kind of fun is the hunt for blackbirds. You can find scattered throughout the cage, which you can track from the quest menu and gives a nice scavenger hunt feeling, so if you're looking to take a break from the usual gameplay, you can just run around and find them all over the place. Since this is the first NieR mobile game, it's probably safe to say that it at least accomplishes to give off a unique feeling, even if the combat seems pretty traditional, although it does bring its own little twist with the combo system, and with the amount of customization you have over your team, from weapons to companions and memoirs. So it's quite clear the goal of the game's design was to deliver a story with a pretty deep gameplay system. Obviously, the biggest and most fun activity has to be the whole mystery behind the cage, while the aesthetics help you believe you're transported to some kind of ethereal world that pretty much don't make sense on first sight, so little by little, witnessing some of the stories from the encounters and climbing the cage higher and higher, it just provides a nice feeling of progression and something you can focus on when there's other things like dailies that occupy your downtime. But it's hard to deny the sweet NieR Automata crossover event is a big plus for the game's launch, and unlocking someone like A2 feels really exciting, especially when you also get a powerful weapon along with it. And if you haven't done already, you should definitely check out NieR Reincarnation by using the link in the description, just because of the crossover event and tons of rewards the game is giving away. Not to mention, it's a free-to-play game for mobile devices, both available on the App Store and Google Play, and it's something that will especially get enjoyed by someone who likes action command RPG genres. And even though this is a sponsored video, only games that this channel approves of will get showcased, and this one truly offers a unique setting and familiar faces for the fans of the series, especially if you enjoy free-to-play action RPGs. And as always, make sure to gently press the like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Most importantly, your support helps the channel deal with expensive editing costs, so you can help out even more by checking out NieR Reincarnation by using the link in the description. Thanks for watching and see you next time.